Welcome to Positive Recovery MD. If you're listening, chances are you want to create happiness around you and thrive in your life. We're glad you're here and you've come to the right place. This podcast will inspire and motivate you to not merely survive your recovery journey, we'll give you the tools to build or strengthen your foundation to thrive and flourish in your life. Each week, we'll come together as a community to have authentic conversations around addiction, recovery, and what matters. Growth and progress, not perfection. All while developing positive habits for you to utilize in your life. To learn more, please visit positiverecoverymd.com to sign up to receive the daily positive interventions that we'll review, as well as gain access to exclusive Positive Recovery content available only to Positive Recovery MD listeners. All right, let's get started.
Hello and welcome, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, to another installment of Positive Recovery MD with your hosts, Jason Powers, Julie DeNofa. We've got a killer guest, Kristin Landrum, on the podcast that aims to help you thrive in recovery at work and in life. Welcome, Kristen. Thanks for coming.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
You are Jordan's sponsor?
Yes, I am.
All right. So
for our listeners, Jordan works with us at Positive Recovery, and she is in our business development department. And I know Kristen from Jordan. And what I will say is that one of the things that I admire the most about Kristen is her ability to listen. And it's funny because in the information that she sends over to us to give us a little more information about her is that she says that what's most useful to her sometimes is that her first reaction is probably not the right one. And she's been told to feel her feelings. And I think that she allows for others to do that so well. So I found that very interesting. I'm so glad you're here, Kristen. Thanks for being here.
Hi, y'all. Thanks for having me.
I definitely, that answer sort of raised my eyebrows a little bit because there is this thinking around the rooms that our first thought is wrong. And when I say rooms, talking about, recovery fellowships. And I feel like while that might be true if somebody's being impulsive or not really thinking things through, I don't think it gives us enough credit as human beings with, full capabilities to trust ourselves at times. So I understand like first thought wrong is kind of like a mantra of a comedian in recovery. And I don't agree with it because it sort of keeps us from trusting ourselves. So yeah, I think we're jumping right into the controversy.
So if we want to start with that,
Right.
I guess the reason I say it was the most helpful for me is it was the most helpful for me in early sobriety, like super early, first year sobriety, in that, with drinking, with drug use and all that stuff, I feel like our intuition kind of gets muddled. I guess we kind of forget how to trust ourselves. And part of the process in early sobriety is learning how to do that again. But just me personally, I came into the program with tons and tons of anger. Like I always say, I had my finger constantly hovering over the F it button and I was ready to push it at any point in time. And so if someone said something to me or just in life, I had to, I guess, learn not to just say F it.
Right.
And burn the building down and walk away. And that's kind of where I get that my reaction wasn't always my first reaction, which was F you, was not the right one. Typically, I had to learn how to listen to what other people were saying and understand things and put other people's feelings before mine. And not that so much not to trust my intuition, but I had to learn kind of, I guess, let it grow, I guess, for the best way I can put that. And some of that relied on listening to my sponsor right at first and understanding, leaning on her and what her reaction would be to certain situations that would pop up in my life and trusting that. So before I could even trust myself, I had to learn to trust her and trust another person. And so I guess that's why.
You know what? I couldn't agree with you more. Actually, I talk about in early recovery, we need other frontal lobes to act as surrogate frontal lobes while ours is healing. Because you say, intuition's muddled. I'd say it's completely numbed out and silenced. And so we don't really know what it looks like. And, the easy out when you feel discomfort is to say, F it, fight or flee. So why don't you take the time now to take our listeners and some viewers on a little journey of what it was like for you, what happened, and what it's like now.
Let's see. I guess if we start at the very, very beginning, I grew up in Lafayette, Louisiana, very standard, typical white Anglo-Saxon Baptist background. We were very middle class, I would say. And so for me, I'm the only alcoholic in my family. I don't have a whole lot of, I guess, what you would call trauma experiences. Like there's no sexual abuse. We didn't really want for anything. I would say that I would have been described as a very precocious child. I have teachers that would complain because I was a know-it-all and that kind of stuff. I was in gifted and talented program. I spent a lot of time in school and things like that. Okay, so my first drinking experience, let's start there. So my first drinking experience, my first ever blackout drunk, I was about 11. And I had gone over to my friend's house. My friend Rachel had like the cool parents. And so we went over and we were all sitting, everybody's sitting around drinking and, whatever, screwdrivers, like what, you're 11, what do you drink? And so I was in the kitchen. I'm in the kitchen. And I'm like pouring myself drinks and I'm kind of mixing everything because I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And I remember I have this drink and then I keep going back for more. And I spent the whole night going back for more. And at the end of the night, I'm laying on the floor and I'm looking at the ceiling and I'm just kind of watching it spin and it's gold and it feels like it's melting. And I guess for me, my early drinking, that's what it was like. It feels like it's melting.
Was there vermouth in what you were drinking?
No, it was like rum and vodka, and it has no real other explanation. And that I think I just like all these things inside of myself, like all this stuff that even at 11, which seems really, really young, was just constantly in my head. This like constant need to be the best and this constant perfectionism that was just never ending, and self-consciousness and just all these things that I felt like were eating, they just all kind of melted away and were washed away in that moment. And I'm just laying on the floor, just feeling like, okay, I guess like that feeling for the very first time in my life where everything just kind of went.
Are you the eldest? Do you have any siblings? Okay. Yeah. So you got to be the best. I understand.
Yes. Very much so.
Right.
I was a straight A student. I was in gifted program. Like whenever I got my first B in math in the 5th grade, like the TV was taken out of my room. I was the best at everything. And even when I got into the program, I was the best alcoholic. Like a crazy person. And I guess that's what it felt like for me. For early, it was melting. And I feel like it just kind of continued because when I drank, I was different. I could be the things that I wanted to be. Like when I drank, I was pretty and I was funny and boys liked me and I was completely fearless. And that was not something I experienced at any point in time other than that. Throughout high school and growing up, I would, hide liquor bottles under my bed and sneak it around. But, I graduated and got scholarships to college. I went to college. I was a theater major in college. I went as far away as I could. I wanted nobody to know me. I had this idea of completely reinventing myself. And being someone different where nobody would know me. And I made new friends and did things. And honestly, like the second day at this new town in college, I'm sitting on the curb drinking like Mad Dog 2020 out of a bottle and like swearing it tastes like orange juice, and it doesn't. And that's just kind of what it looked like for me. I had the freedom once I got to college to like do experimentation and try all these different drugs and try these things. And I guess I never had that before. That's kind of where things took a little bit of a change. That more drugs got involved, more drinking got involved. I didn't go to class the way I was supposed to go to class. I feel like my teachers knew I was an alcoholic well before I did. I had gone through Oh, Lord. I know I wrote this, but I'd gone through like this massive kind of bender where we'd been awake for like a week. We'd driven to different states and gotten kicked out of casinos and done all this stuff. And we came home and me and my friends sat down and we decided we're going to like build the best table you've ever seen in your life. So we get this great idea. We're going to go borrow tools and like supplies from the college theater department that I was enrolled at. And we get there and just decide to take everything. We take everything that we can get our hands on and we bring it back to my house and it's like laid out all in the parking lot. And long story short, we ended up getting arrested. I got caught for grand larceny.
Trying to build a table and you're getting caught for grand larceny.
Table, and I got arrested for grand larceny. And my names on the front page of the newspaper in the town, and I had to leave the state. And I came back to Texas. And there's just, in that time, there's a lot of escalation there. I worked at bars. I bartended because that is an alcoholic's dream job. Absolutely. I got to drink for free. I met my ex-husband at a bar because he tipped me well. I decided to escape to Louisiana because I thought life would be better there. And just in general, everything kind of continued the same. I would say my alcoholism was kind of roller coaster-ish. It kind of waxed and waned. And then one day I just wasn't feeling good. I hadn't been feeling good for a little while. And I took a pregnancy test and it came up positive. And I just remember feeling like my life was over because I didn't know how not to drink. I tried all sorts of different things. Even during that time, I tried to drink non-alcoholic wine. I tried the only have a glass. The doctor says it's fine. I tried all this different stuff and none of it worked. And even though I desperately didn't want to drink, I didn't know how. I had my daughter and she's fine. She's great. She's 11 now. But there's never been a point in time during then and for years afterward where I was ever able just to not pick up a drink. I started getting into trouble a few years after that. I got my first DWI, and then I got a second DWI, and I got a third DWI. And every single time I would swear to myself. I'd swear, the first time I'm not going to drink and drive anymore, and the second time I'm not going to drink and drive anymore, and the third time I was never going to drink again. And every single time I said it, I absolutely meant it. And I would do all these things, like I'd have a breathalyzer in my car and I would time out my drinking the night before. I would say I need to stop at this point in time at night so that I could wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning and I could blow in my breathalyzer and I would pass, and I would put on sweatsuits and I'd run around the house and I'd do all these breathing things, all just so I'd pass a breathalyzer and I could get up and go to work the next day. But the one thing I could never, ever, ever accomplish was just not picking up a drink. I was an all day, everyday drinker from the moment I woke up. I would pass out the night before and I'd wake up and I would pick up the drink that was on the nightstand and I'd go back and bring it with me to work and I'd get off of work and I'd just do the same thing over and over again. So I got my third DWI when I was on April 11th of 2016. And it was a totally normal day. It was a day like every other. I got off of work. I went to this Mexican restaurant. That was my favorite drinking spot. And I'm sitting there and I'm having a drink. And the bartender asked me if I'd like another. And like in the back of my head, I remember thinking, no, I've probably had enough. But in the time before that thought even finished, I was like, yeah, go ahead. I'll take another. And I'll take another. And I got arrested on the way home and I'm in that jail cell and I'm just thinking to myself, like, I call my mom and I'm screaming on the phone and I'm like, I swear I'm better. I'm getting better. I'm dating someone sober. So obviously I'm much better now. Why can't anybody see? Why won't everybody just leave me alone and understand that I'm better? Even though like at that time I got out of jail and at that time I swore I was never going to drink again. And I want to say it was probably the next morning in the time it took for my mom to take my daughter to the school bus that I was raiding the liquor cabinet and stealing liquor bottles and bringing them with me. And I'm just chugging and looking at the bottom of this bottle and not understanding what the heck is wrong with me and crying because it didn't matter how many times I tried. The first drink always made me feel better, but the second never did. I spent all this time chasing that feeling of the first drink and just trying to feel okay, and it never coming back and not knowing what the heck was wrong with me. It was by a miracle that I knew where a meeting was. I had been dating a guy in the program, serendipitous, and I knew that he went to a meeting, and I looked it up on Google Maps, and I went and I drove my completely alcoholic, busted up car into this meeting. And I mean, this car has dents, like the bumper's been ripped off and the back one's duct taped on and the passenger door doesn't open. And I'm driving into this meeting and I'm speeding because of course I'm running late, and I make an illegal U-turn in the middle of the road and peel into the parking lot. And like all these people are out front, like smoking their cigarettes and drinking coffee. And they see me like pull in, and that meeting was full. And they asked me if I thought I had a problem with alcohol. And I just said that I've had 3 DWIs in 3 years. So like, I guess, and everybody at that meeting talked to me. I don't remember anything that was said, but I know somebody gave me a big look, and I was so angry. I was just so mad. I was spitting mad, and all the women in the program were scared of me. Like no one wanted to talk to me. And I came into a meeting and I opened the meeting with F you and F this program and F all of you. And I stood up and I flipped everybody off in the middle of the meeting. And every single person went around the room and they just told me that this too shall pass. And I cursed them all out. And afterward, at the end of the meeting, I had some of the old guys in the group come to me and they asked me to come with them to dinner. And we sat at that table and they went around the table and they all told me like everything that they gave up and everything that they lost with their drinking and their drug use. And then they went all around the table and they told me everything that they got back in recovery. And that's the day that turned everything around for me. Hearing them tell me all these stories and just the possibility that maybe by some outrageous chance, I could be okay and I could understand what was wrong with me. It was then that I really changed the way I felt and decided that I was going to throw myself into the program and work it to the best of my ability. As hard as I drank, I wanted to work the program. And I got a sponsor. And I did all these things, I worked the steps. And for me, it wasn't quick. I will say that it was a long process. The steps took me a year to work. The first step, which is my favorite, it took me probably 6 months. And I was doing all these things. I'm in meetings every day and I'm calling my sponsor every single day and I'm reading the big book every day and we're meeting twice a week and I'm doing all these things. And I felt like I was just beating my head against a brick wall, trying to understand powerlessness, trying to understand what this program was even talking about. And it's like a giant brick wall and I've got a tiny little rock hammer and I'm just slowly picking away at it. And I was riding in my car and all of a sudden I get this like thing in the back of my head and it tells me that I can never have a margarita by the beach again. And it was like this brick came loose from the brick wall. And like I always imagined when I fully like accepted my alcoholism and when I accepted this program that it would feel like the heavens opened and angels and and all this stuff. And instead it felt like that whole brick wall fell down on me and like I was drowning and clawing my way through and like I couldn't breathe. And that's the best way I can describe what this program has been. It's slowly throwing in the towel one little thread at a time. And I want to say, I guess my spiritual awakening for me really came when I was doing my step 5 with my sponsor and when I was tackling all those resentments and really understanding what my part in all these decisions and my part in my alcoholism and just what all of that really meant. I'd had this like 3-day fifth step with my sponsor where we just locked ourselves away and gone over all this. And I'm sitting there. You're supposed to do like an hour meditation, like after you do this. And I'm sitting there with my big book and something tells me to get in my closet. So I'm sitting on the floor in my closet with my big book, and I keep saying to myself, am I making mortar without sand? Am I making mortar without sand? Am I making mortar without sand? And then all of a sudden, in the back of my head, I hear this voice say that you've got drugs. And I realized that I had been hoarding a stash of drugs throughout my entire early sobriety. My drug of choice was Molly. Right before I quit doing it, I woke up one day and realized that the next time I did it, I was going to die. And I just knew it. And so I'd stashed them away. And I think the whole time I was sober, the whole early time when I was working the program, I think I had this fail safe in the back of my head that if this doesn't work, it's okay. I've got this stash. I can do this, and it'll all go away. And so I had that voice tell me that you've got drugs, and I tore through the room, and I'm looking in every drawer, and in the back of the closet, I find stuck away in a suitcase. And I called my sponsor on the phone, and she stayed on the phone with me while I flushed him down the toilet. And it felt like I was being ripped apart. Like my every last reservation that I had was being ripped out of me. And it's like I was being cut open completely. You know, my sponsor always tells me that you can't fill what is already full. And so recovery and the program, I have to break open. Like I have to break open and shatter. And then God comes and he picks me up, and he like puts all my pieces together, and he fills me up. And I get to make a completely new life from all these broken apart puzzle pieces. You know, that's to me what the program gave me. The program gave me, you know, a new life. It gave me the ability to pick up giant, crazy mess and put it back together in a way that I guess I never thought possible. You know, my sponsor always drilled into me, follow the dictates of your higher power and you will live in a new and wonderful life, no matter your present circumstances. And I can say today that that's true. You know, there was a chunk of time when I drank under the bridge, and there wasn't a day that went by that I didn't drink. And I don't do that today. Like today I wake up in my house, and there's no drink on the bedside table next to me, and I'm not constantly reaching for it. And that to me is everything.
So thank you so much for sharing. That was awesome. You did not need us to guide you at all. That was phenomenal. I do have one question.
Yeah.
As a doctor, I'm just curious, how did you not need medical detox with as much as you were drinking and daily?
I think that to be honest, I don't know. I know that I was shaking. I know that I did all that stuff. I think I just confused myself. I didn't know any better.
Okay.
I never went to rehab. I never tried to go through any type of program. I didn't have the experience to know any better. I went to a ton of meetings. I was at meetings 3 times a day early on, and just constantly surrounded by people. And God, I would remember like they would talking to people, and they'd be like, "You're shaking. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm just nervous." I think I just didn't know.
Are you still the only alcoholic in your family?
I am. I'm still the only alcoholic in my family. Everyone's really normal. Like I have like super productive, extremely, like I have lawyers and they're lawyers and doctors all throughout my family. And then there's me.
Well, we know some lawyers and doctors that, you know, also have drinking or drugging problems.
Yes. So like it's been really cool to get to like have a totally different, I was always the black sheep in my family, always. And, you know, I've gotten to do new aspects of my relationships with them. Like I talk to my grandmother all the time now. She tells me she's proud of me.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. No one ever told me that.
Yeah,
Not even when you were getting all the A's and B's?
No.
No B's. No B's.
That was a long time ago. Oh, 1 B.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I really love your insight into, I guess, the experiences of being reluctant to let go. And I just love your metaphors on how you made transformational growth, like in the midst of it. I just love that. Yeah, that was awesome. Okay, so now we'll go to, I'm just going to ask you questions and you tell me what's, top of your head.
Okay.
All right. What's your favorite sound?
Purring. Cat purrs.
I know. I love that. What's your least favorite sound?
Oh, Lord. Burps. I guess.
Okay. Perfect. What's your favorite word?
Oh, splendiferous.
And least favorite word?
I don't, least favorite word, fart.
Okay. What turns you on?
Okay, so I get really obsessive about little, small projects. Honestly, just things that make me excited. I guess I get excited about AA, and I get excited about that kind of silly stuff. I get super emotional about it. But I'm still a perfectionist. I still get really excited about little projects. I'm painting my house right now, so that's currently what I'm obsessed with. I feel like I always have to have some little obsession to focus on that I don't go crazy, and I can kind of channel some of that energy in a healthy, productive way. So currently it's my house.
That's great. That's good. I'm with you. I just got done painting this room, and yeah.
You can see, like, look, you can see the edge where I haven't edged it in yet.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
All right. I can't wait to see the final product. And okay, so that turns you on. What turns you off?
Oh, routine.
Okay.
It's very, very hard for me to do the same thing day in and day out. When I was going through probation, I had to call in to check and see if I had a drug test every morning. And that was the bane of my existence. I went to jail when I was 3 years sober because I missed a drug test because I just didn't call in every day.
Did you forget?
Yes,
okay.
I forgot and I slightly rebelled against it.
You ever have nightmares that you forgot to call in?
Yes, still
that happened
occasionally.
To me too. Yeah, that happened to me too.
I have nightmares, or I'll I still reach for my breathalyzer. It took me a long time not to reach for my breathalyzer.
All right, so assuming there's a God, which I don't think it's much of a stretch for you, when you die, what would you like to hear come out of God's mouth towards you when you're like at the gates?
Ooh, I think I would like to hear that everyone around me is going to be okay, and that I guess he knows I did my best.
Okay.
I think.
Thank you, Kristen. I so enjoyed hearing those, and you have some funny things going on for sure. We're going to switch gears and jump right into the Positive Recovery Daily Guide and look at a positive intervention. Thank you for doing this with us. I'll thank you in advance. I'm going to start first with a quote, and it is better to take many small steps in the right direction than to make a great leap forward only to stumble backward. Happiness does not come from achieving goals as much as it comes from pursuing goals. A goal does not need to be as lofty as winning the Super Bowl. Any goal that challenges your strengths and is consistent with your values can result in happiness if you take time to savor the journey. So for today's positive intervention, we ask that you look at your goals from day one again. Ask yourself if you are on the right road or if there are steps to make, sales to adjust, or even new goals to design. In any case, reevaluate the goals to make sure they are in line with your values and meaningful to you. Remember that success comes from repeatedly taking baby steps, not from making one enormous leap. It is said that addicts want what they want when they want it, and they want you to pay for it. That trite cliche reflects how poor people can be at practicing delayed gratification. The same applies to goal achievement. Have you given up because you haven't crossed the finish line fast enough? Has the lack of quick success discouraged you? If so, don't fret. Keep going. Look at what you can do by breaking up the task into small, manageable tasks. When it talks about looking at your goals from day one, like I said, this is out of our book, Positive Recovery Daily Guide. So at the beginning, on day one or very early on, we did work on some goals. I know from having talked and worked with Kristen in the past that she is a goal setter. So this probably wasn't that difficult for her. So can you share your experience with us on this?
Well, let's see. Okay, so when I first got in the program, my only goal was just don't drink today. That like anything further than that, I couldn't wrap my head around. Don't drink 5 minutes. Don't drink for the next hour. Just don't drink today. And then I guess slowly over time, that spreads. And then I had goals to get off probation. And let's say that goals have changed dramatically. Over the past several years, they've gotten a lot bigger. I think I know why Jordan chose this one for me. It's because she's heard me talk about baby steps for me. Everything for me is a baby step. Working the program was slow and steady and baby steps. And I feel like that's everything. That's kind of how I handle everything. But I'm completely guilty of this like delayed gratification. Like, I hate that. I absolutely want things right now. Like, my most recent goal was buying a house. And so I saved for years. And then last August, closed on the house and moved. And now I'm painting it. So I feel like for me, it's a mix. It's a mix of like really accomplishing some of those bigger goals slowly, step by step. And then at the same time, because I do like hate waiting for things, like it's really hard for me, and understanding God's timing and why it doesn't align with mine. Sometimes I'm guilty of also being bothered by it, I guess.
Thanks for sharing, Kristen. I really appreciate that. Dr. Powers, what you got?
Yeah, so I actually reworked my goals because, a lot has happened. One of my top goals is to get through the daily guide, to get through every page of the daily guide. And I'm looking for ways to insert it more. Certainly doing this podcast has helped. When I set out to make the daily guide, I intentionally made it challenging and rewarding enough that it could be repeated yearly. Like when you finish day 365, and there's also one for leap year, that it is beneficial enough that you start over again. Well, I didn't realize how hard it would be because I have yet to be able to get through it. And so in that goal of doing it, there's tons of goals on setting intention and enhancing relationships and practicing more gratitude and hope and enhancing meaning and achievement. So I feel like the byproduct of pursuing happiness the right way is happiness. It's not, you don't get it by just pursuing it directly. So filling buckets of positivity, engagement, relationship, meaning, and achievement, I feel like, man, that's my goal. And the side effect of filling those buckets is well-being, and of not just me, but others as well. And I think that's where I'm at the moment.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us and with our listeners. Well, with that, Kristen, I want to thank you for coming on Positive Recovery MD and being our guest today. I so appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. Hope to see you in person one day. And remember, life is not very long. It's short. It's not a dress rehearsal. So please take care of yourself and take care of one another. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Positive Recovery MD. Don't forget to visit positiverecoverymd.com to sign up to get your daily positive intervention sent straight to your inbox. Be sure to subscribe to Positive Recovery MD on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts to receive an automatic download when a new episode drops. And as always, if you or someone you know needs help, visit positiverecovery.com or call 877-4-SOBRIETY, which is 877-476-2743. We are here to help.